Yo so bhagava sampa sambuddha svakato ye bhagavata yam suvartimana Maya Sadhana Sadhana Ime Vesak Retreat Early Buddhist Sutta Theravada Svakato Bhagavata Suparipando Bhagavato Sangha Andamayam Buddhasa Bhagavato Bhagavanamakaram Karamase
Namo tassa
Bhagavata Sambuddhasa Namo Tassa Namo Tassa Sambuddhasa Andamayam Buddha Vitutin Karamase
yoso
Tathagato Vinjacharana Sampan Sunato Pali Adra Sadam Sati Sati Buddha Yo Ima Samade Samba Samade 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 Ayya Sachikatumva Ave Yodhamma Yese Siya Ikaya Nachitya Ayya Satam Sabhyanjana Kevala Paripurna Harisudha Brahmacharya Vakasesi Dhamma Bhagavanta Abhipujaya Dhamma Bhagavanta Sirasa Namo. Andamayang Dhamma Vitutinkaromase
Yoso
Svargato Bhagavata Sanditiko Bhagavati Evipasiko Raja Dhammo Namaha Vipujaya Dhamma Sirasa Namo. Andamayang Sangha Vitutinkaromase
Yoso
Subhadipando Yeah, so the yeah, Andamayamarachanataya Panamagataya Cheva Sambhega Parikitana Patancha Mahanamase
Buddho Susutho
Karuna Ya Yasudha Bhagya Nalochana Loka Sapa Akile Sakatako Wanda Mi Buddha Yahamba Dadi Nata Dhammo Bhadipo Viyata Sasaturo Yo Bhagavaka Nata Vedani Nako Dhammo Wanda Vira Sambo Suketa Yadiketa Sangito Yodika Santo Sukata Bari no Bari Sube Aso Wanda Visanga Dhamma Dari Iche Wambe Tapipo Janera Isa Kata Punya Maya Mamasa Bupa Dopa Dubeta Saba Sinkiya Ida Tata Katola Upando Arasa Jadi Sito Iya Itu Oba Sandiko Dari Itu Sampo Raja Sukata Vedito Ayya Sutta Yanti Viduka Viduka So Kavaride Badu Kado Manasupa So Viduka Adiye Sampayo Viduka Diye Vipayo Yanti Chandalapatitam Vidukam Sankitena Panchuparana Kanta Dukha Seyajidam Rupada Yakanto Vedanupada Yakanto Sanyupada Yakanto Sankarupada Yakanto Venyapada Yakanto Sampariyaya Bhagavan Evam Bhavanam Savake Vineti Evam Bhaga Japanasa Vatam Savake Suvanasa Suri Bhavati Nirvana Veda Anicca Samya Anicca Samya Anicca Venya Anicca Ananta Vedanta Samya Anicca Sankara Sambe Sankaram Anicca Sambe Ti Maya Dirina Jati So Ke Niparide Vidu Ke Vidoma Se Iva Se Duko Jinda Dukavareta Ade Vanamiva Sake Vala Satuka Kandhasa Antekiriya Panya Yetati Pali Nibbota Vita Bhagavantam Saranam Yata Manjasa Manjasa Vatu Saranam Yata Sati Yata Manjasa Sika Patipata Patipati Ima Sake Vala Sadukha Kandha Sa Antekiriya Samvajati Araham Samma Sambuddhassa Svakato Bhagavata Subhatipanno Bhagavata Sangha Dear friends, I would like to plunge right ahead into beginning the Dhamma reflections for this day by looking in more depth at the three asavas, the three taints. The first of these three is called Khīnāsava, the taint of sensuality. The word kama can denote sense desire around the whole spectrum of the five senses. It has a particular meaning connected to love and sex, but it also has a much broader meaning. When the Bodhisattva was a young man, or when he was a child, his father had heard the prediction that Gautama would be either a great king, a powerful wheel-turning monarch, or else would become a wheel-turning spiritual leader. And in order to guide towards the political side, he kept the Buddha surrounded in a cocoon of luxury. There's a wonderful book you might read someday called Daily Life in Ancient India, and it describes the lifestyle of someone of that class, the warrior class, the political class. They would sleep on a very soft and luxurious bed. When they wake up in the morning, they would be surrounded by musicians and maybe some lovely fruit or a little snack to start the day. They would have a long ritual of putting on their beautiful fine clothing and putting on their makeup for men and women both, and doing their hair. And then they would get themselves organized for lunch and have a marvelous heavy meal with many different kinds of dishes served in many small plates. And then after lunch, they might have some entertainment. Could be poetry or music or dancing. It's said that in the case of the Buddha, he had three different palaces, one for each season of the year. So during the hot season, he had a palace which was up in the mountains that would be more cool and comfortable. And during the winter, he had a palace that was warm enough. And he was kept surrounded by numerous beautiful ladies. So then after this entertainment in the daily life of ancient India, then they would go down to the river and have a swim. And then coming out of the swim, they'd dry themselves off, and then they'd have to go back and get dressed again and put on their makeup again and get ready for the evening entertainment. So this all of these objects, these beautiful things, the lovely, attractive, enchanting companions, the music, the finery, the food that was prepared so beautifully, all these are the objects of sensual pleasure, which is called in Pali the kama guna. Kama guna literally means like ties or strands. And this is why I like to think of it as being a cocoon. So you've got the threads of pleasure, and it just goes around and around and around. And eventually you're completely wrapped up in that cocoon of pleasure. They're described in the text as objects cognizable by the five senses that are desirable, cherished, pleasant, lovely, sensuous, and alluring. However, the kama guna is not the same thing as sensual pleasure or the taint of sensuality. They're only objects. The Buddha said, greedy intention is the person's sensual pleasure. The world's pretty things are not sensual pleasures. The world's pretty things stay just as they are, but the wise one removes the desire for them. In reality, there's a pretty strong connection, isn't there, between this sensuality and ignorance, because the cocoon of pleasure is hiding something. What is it hiding? It's hiding old age, sickness, and death. We could be like having a party or an entertainment in the plague years. Maybe it's a masquerade or something, and one person comes in disguised as death, and that person actually has the plague, and I give it to everybody, and then very soon all of their pleasure, all of their beautiful things are completely useless, because the person is writhing in the agony of severe illness. And also our aversion, our hatred, our fear, our anxiety can also be tied up in this sensuality, because anybody who's even a little bit intelligent knows that sensual pleasures don't work forever. I personally, I knew this when I was a small child. I used to have a recurring nightmare or a kind of a dream about making a beautiful painting. It would be like a natural painting with the sun and the flowers and the animals and the trees and so forth. And then at the corner of the painting, there would be like a mistake and a big splotch, a big ink splotch in the corner. And so like I kind of like had this knowledge always, and I think everybody has the knowledge it's not actually going to work. Sensual pleasure is not going to do the job. And then we get onto that hedonic treadmill or that addictive cycle where the disappointment or the hangover is the depression, the dissatisfaction, the crabbiness is like the dirty underwear underneath all of that finery. And so whenever hatred comes up, fear comes up, and so on, we can think of it as being part of this same web, this same asava, the same bond, which is keeping us tied into this cycle of rebirth, the rat race of going around and around. Another way of thinking about the Khīnāsava, the taint of sensuality, is that a person who lives this way is heading to be reborn in the sensual plane. So they're going to likely get reborn either as a person or an animal or some being who's in this realm. And then when we got born into this realm, our ticket, is already punched with a certain itinerary, and we got a mind and a body that has got all of these needs. We need the nutriment of food. We need to support our existence, our continued life. And we've got this strong drive for staying alive. And then everything that we build up as far as getting a shelter, getting something to wear, getting some safety, getting some medicine, getting some food, getting a partner for procreation, getting some children, getting some employees or servants, saving up some food so that we've got a granary which is completely filled with food, so we'll be able to get through the winter, harvesting all of the the fruits or whatever, and learning how to can them and preserve them so that we have some for later on. The entire project is part of this drive we have to protect our existence. And then the bhavasava, the taint of existence, is the second of the three taints. And so the taint of sensuality and the taint of becoming are tied in together. And then I already told you the third taint is ignorance. And I already explained to you how the taint of ignorance. So all three of them are working together all the time. We did get born as human beings. So we came into this realm of the senses. We are endowed with the five senses and also endowed with the sixth sense of the mind, being capable of consciousness, awareness, and reflection. And we have the capacity, because of this realm that we got born into, we got the capacity for wisdom. But even though we have this potential for wisdom, we still got the body, and we still need to take care of it. It's for this reason that one of the sections, there's a particular sutta called the Sabhasava Sutta in the middle length discourses. And there are taints to be destroyed by using. And what this is referring to is the things that we need to care for the body, for nourishment. So there is a way to have the food, the shelter, even the companions, the relationships, even the arts and entertainment, with a different attitude of not using those things to hide from reality, and not using those things with the compulsion to continue our existence. And that means not grasping them, not identifying with them, not becoming greedy about them, not claiming them as being me or mine. And we in the monastic training have a constant reflection each time taking food or entering the house or putting on the clothing or taking medicine. We reflect that we're using these things not for fun, not for pleasure, not for beautification, but only for the maintenance and protection of the body. In the case of food, for keeping it healthy, for helping with the holy life. In case of shelter, for protection from the weather and from creatures and insects, and for seclusion. In the case of clothing, for protection from the weather, protection from insects, and for modesty. And in the case of medicine, in order to eliminate the painful, racking feelings arising from illness. And so the Buddha acknowledged that it's necessary to use the things that are given to us that were part of the itinerary when we took this human birth, but to use them without claiming ownership and not being greedy for survival. Perhaps in the hierarchy of values, a person who understands about causation would realize that for their long-term happiness, the karma that they do, the intentional actions that they do, is having a much more profound impact on their future happiness than having a pantry filled with food that you're definitely going to get some tomorrow. And then in the end, if we find this noble path, we could understand that the kind of karma which is directing us towards a favorable rebirth is still not the end of the story, that we're looking to direct our actions in a way that leads to the end of rebirth, to the end of the whole cycle. So I invite you to consider, as you go through the morning of this day, each time you need to reach for the next pretty thing or the next delicious thing, when you take your food or when you enter your house or put on your clothing or take the medicine, can you pause and reflect for the purpose of purifying any greed or attachment about it, and also for the purpose of throwing away any delusions about it. And can we, for the duration of this retreat, cut back on some of the extra pleasurable treats that we might usually enjoy and make our lives a bit more simplified? And that could be, in the realm of luxurious pleasures, or it could be in the realm of entertainment, or it even could be in the realm of daydreams. That's the one thing that's available to all of us. Okay, I got to tell you something. Years ago, I did, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I know how to lose myself in pleasure. I can do it. I know how. And after I had been in the Dhamma for more than 15 years, and after I had already become a monastic, this was actually when I was shortly after my full ordination, so I was already a Bhikkhuni. In a particular period of time that was quite frustrating, challenging, and difficult for me, I found out that I don't need to actually do anything or ingest anything in order to be intoxicated. I could just recollect intoxication and be intoxicated. And I found out that I was able to suffer all of the subsequent anxiety and mental illness that was the side effect of addiction. I could do like this whole thing, the entire cycle of the dukkha, the pleasure and the dukkha related to addiction is all like still available. Like this mind knows how to do it. So if you have within yourself the habits of being like the pleasure-seeking type of person, who the mind just goes there towards pleasure, and it just it's so delicious. You like have this relishing or delecting the pleasure and just going there and wanting to stay there. Then be aware of that, and then see if you can not do that, even just for this retreat. Or if you are the aversive type of person who sees things that are not satisfactory and has like a strong reaction to that, like needing to fix it, needing to make it right, and so on like that. If you would realize that that's also the opposite side of this, it's the opposite side of pleasure. And then don't do that. Just pause, just stop when you see those tendencies coming along. Just say, I'm going to keep the mind balanced, equal, clear, and calm, and I'm just going to notice what's arising without picking it up. So this would be kind of like a preliminary training to gradually, bit by bit, get farther and farther away from this taint of sensuality. And it might be that someday you'll have this sudden awakening. And it could also be that you may have a gradual awakening where these bonds, the sensual objects, the kama guna, would be like the ropes and so forth, the rigging on a sailboat, which has been beached, pulled up on the beach, and it's just sitting there. And over the years, with the salt water and the wind and the rain, all of those ropes and those ties get more and more fragile and rotten, and weaker and weaker and weaker, and then they break. So this is what we're aiming for. This is my reflection for this morning. I welcome you to save your questions for later on and to practice this morning and come back again at the next event. Do you know when it is? Is it 9 o'clock or 9:30? 9:30. So come back 3 hours from now and we'll continue our conversation. May all of you be well, happy, and peaceful. May you be successful. May you cope with all the difficulties of life. And may you gain awakening.